Hello, everybody. Justin Stivers here. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of the Stivers Show. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. I got a friend, colleague. I'm sure we're gonna have some witty banter because that's what we like to do. Mr. Jorge Casariego with Northwestern Mutual Financial Advisor. What's going on, brother?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. It's an honor.
It's awesome, man. It's gonna be fun. So we've known each other, I don't know, like 5-6 years now.
I think it's about 5 years. Start off in the B&I world.
Yeah, that's a world I'd like to forget. But started off there, man, and we've kept in contact. Have a lot of mutual friends, clients, and different things like that. So,
yeah.
Glad to have you on, man. I know we spoke a little while ago, and so we're kind of in a obviously unique world with I don't think we can even say post-COVID yet because we're still kind of like in the thick.
We're in it.
We're still in it. So I don't know if we're post yet.
Knee deep.
Yeah, depending on when this airs, this is July 3rd, Friday, July 3rd. And so definitely with your space in the financial world, things are different. My space in the legal world different. But we'll jump into all that, man. But where I always kind of like to start, just maybe introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And all that good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, I one of the things I do is I advise people on their finances, right? To take a step back, I'm a Miami guy. I'm one of the few born and raised here. We don't get out much, but they still exist. And I went to University of Miami and I started the internship program here with the firm, and it's a great experience. And between taking a brief stint away from it, coming back, being in a recruiting and development role for advisors, I actually flipped and started my own practice within the firm about 7 years ago. So I've been doing it for a bit. That's the professional side. On the personal side, I like to do as much outside activities as I can. This COVID world has been tough because you're just sitting here in your apartment. So I'm sure we'll talk about that, but that's a bit about me. I love making connections with people and figuring out where can I come in and make their life better through the things that I do professionally, through maybe my own experiences, advice, or what have you, as it is. And ideally it's for them to go out and do the things that they want to do, right? Their big visions, their big ideas. I want to help make that happen. And that's just what I love.
Well, one thing, so I'm an outdoor guy myself. And so I was like spending, the past couple of days, just like, I feel like weekends, I'm always trying to figure out like fun stuff to do. And then like,
they're the same as Thursday.
Right. So what are your fun outdoor things you do here in Miami/Florida?
Well, so
it's really hot right now.
It's so hot, and I've been dealing with this humidity and heat since my whole life, right? And I am not a fan of humidity. If I could avoid one thing, it'd be humidity. So to touch on the COVID thing, one of the things that I was able to do, which I encourage everyone to think about, is as we're working remotely, it dawned on me a couple months ago, talking to a buddy who lives in Idaho, like just about 2 hours away from Yellowstone. And I'd been out in that part of the country when I was in college on this awesome hike in the Tetons. And I just loved it because the summers there are it's zero humidity, sunny days, and just mountains, right? And we don't get any of that here. So one of the things I did, which I encourage people to do, is get out of here, right? Like,
yeah.
My clients didn't care that I was going on a mountain in a Humvee after I was done with their Zoom call. Didn't matter where I was.
Who did they know?
I told them, and they're like, man, that's a great idea. I need to get the hell out of my apartment. Yeah, so we did fun stuff for a month. I was out there in my buddy and business partner's place and ran my practice normally, just in a different state. So, when I'm here, it's anything on the water is just fun. I know everybody says that, or a lot of people say it, but I go fishing a lot. what's crazy is that I think you could probably agree is that as we start, maybe as young entrepreneurs and young business owners, we devote so much time to building a business that we forget to have fun. So that, I know that happened to me. It still happens to me. I forget, like, wait, I like going outside and playing golf or horseback riding. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I don't get a chance to do it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things you gotta like almost like build into your, like schedule it,
Yeah.
because otherwise you forget, you do forget. And you can, I mean, as much as, you know, you probably like working as much as I do, you know, there's a lot of other things that I like doing as well that I just kind of, you know, forget about. But I think it's a good segue into, you know, this remote world that we're in, because, you know, my practice has shifted a little bit. I mean, we've always been pretty remote as far as telephonic consultations, a lot of our business out of state clients. So, you know, I've said this many times, I've probably only ever met 99% of, or I haven't met 99% of my clients in person. It's only ever been, you know, over the telephone, and it's worked out, you know. And so now I've got my staff working remotely. A month ago, we decided to make that permanent. I'm interviewing people right now in different states, you know, which I had never even like considered before, but it's like, you know, I'm finding good talent. Not that there's not good talent here, but I'm finding good talent elsewhere. And so I'm almost like, you know, I'm not in the Caribbean. I mean, I could be though. And I'm like, why am I not? Like almost like, you know, why am I not, you know, somewhere else, you know, right now? I talk with a lot of advice, you know, financial advisors, because our worlds kind of collide. And, you know, most of the advisors I speak with, they tend to skew a little bit older, but they're like, no, I need the in-person meeting. My clients want me in person, and I'm skeptical of that. I think there's probably a segment that does, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you touched on a lot of interesting things that we're all navigating kind of as they come, right? I think there's some technical, like logistical things about being remote that are new, right? Like I know in your world, like getting virtual notaries and all of that, like that's just kind of happening in the flow right now. In our world, the same, right? Like e-applications are being better, right? They're streamlining, right? Do we always need a wet signature, or can they take an electronic signature? Obviously, in our world, we're very high compliance, very high regulatory factors, right? So technically, I can't just pick up and go to a state per se without being licensed, right? So those are minor tweaks, frankly. Now, from a practical standpoint, I would disagree. I would agree with you and disagree with maybe the older philosophy where everything has to be remote. I've had a national practice for a while, right? I have clients that I've never met as well. What in my world helps is that my business is built off of referrals. So there's that transfer of trust, right? My guy here could refer me to his buddy in Alabama. I've never met. He's one of my favorite clients. And we have a great time when we talk and we Zoom and all that. But it was that transfer that made it possible. That said, the space that we have now and tolerance for time is so much lower that what virtual and non-physical, let's just call it, so whether it's phone or whatever, allows us to do is to become relevant very quickly in a world where we're just drowning in news and noise, right? How can I be relevant to you in 7 minutes?
Yeah.
I can't drive 2 hours to book a meeting for 7 minutes. That's a bit inefficient, right? But a 7-minute phone call just to find out if our planning philosophy aligns with your goals, and if it's interesting and relevant, we'll pick up where that leads us. But that makes sense to a lot of people because they have 7 minutes, they have 15 minutes, even if it's in drive time, which no one's doing anymore because we're not going anywhere. But that there's a huge advantage to being remote. And I've seen that, I'm seeing it. And in some instances, we haven't skipped a beat in that. Now, from the business owner perspective is, and this is where it gets challenging, is you could be in front of a Zoom or in an email. You can have I have two screens. So I had to shut down Outlook so I don't get an email, right? That's, I think, the downside of constant virtuality. It's ding, 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 ding. You're bouncing around like a ping pong.
Yeah.
To seemingly urgent. The urgent trumps the important.
Yeah.
And so we have to balance it. We have to create space for non-digital, right? Like just, or a space to do things that have to get done, but are not in front of the client. And this gets into just the natural dynamics of a business owner. But the long story short, I think the world is changing. This kind of blends into the thought that robo advisors or robots or AI could take over my industry, for example. And which is just an interesting thing to think of, right? In any industry. So it's been thought of in the accounting world. Could just a bunch of robots take over thousands of accountants in a big, large firm? And it's possible. I think the difference between the way you run your business, I run my practice, and many others do is a computer or a robot can't supplant a relationship, right? A robo advisor telling you through logic, don't sell when the market went down 30%. It's not as effective as a human being that knows your thoughts, your fears, your plan, and your ideas, that has a relationship with you to tell you weather the storm because we're built for this. That's different. So in many ways, the virtual nature can't replace the human connection and the contact. And then, and this is actually a cool study. I don't know if you've heard this. I read a book. It was called, I'll have to think about it in a second. I'll send it. But it talks about some of the advantages about being somewhat of a jack of all trades. I don't know if you ever feel like you're a jack of all trades, but master of none. It's an old saying. But it was talking about how some of the people that are that way have a lot of advantages. So one of the studies they did is they looked at grandmaster chess players. Remember when they were trying to create computers to be grandmasters?
Sure.
The computers always beat the grandmaster. Why? Well, because computers can run millions upon millions of trials and tactics in seconds, and we can't. Okay. Yeah. But then they paired a grandmaster with a computer to play against the computer. And that combination, that team, beat the computer.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. That's the strategy component that humans have that computers don't, which is we can strategize. They're better at tactics. So it's kind of deviated a bit, but it's all in the virtual world that we're living in.
I'm going to unpack a little, because that's a lot of different stuff there. So I think what, to kind of, one of the things that you were saying is I think, first of all, the digital space, I think, can be great for the individual who's not wasting time in traffic, or the professional who's not spending, an hour to get to a meeting, to have the hour meeting, to have because it's just not efficient. The challenge is, okay, well, does that just mean you're going to be like doing a million more tasks? Because now, like, I've been feeling like when I sit down in my computer now, like, I'm super efficient, or I think I'm efficient, but I'm doing like a million things. Like, I'm doing like, and it's almost like, I almost feel like I'm taking more home with me now before, because I'm able to do a lot, or I think I'm able to do a lot more. And so, I'm not worried is not the right word, but I think we do have to kind of be careful that we don't like burn out easier, because now we're doing a ton more stuff.
I completely agree. It's that crossover between efficiency and effectiveness.
Yeah.
And that I'm finding myself in the same. I'm talking the people I talk to. It's because we can be in front of the computer on Zoom calls and responding to emails all day long, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, be like, "What did I do today?"
Right. Right. But I think it pairs well with the second thing you were talking about with the the AI, the intelligence, the automation, and all of that, because this is bringing to light that a lot of things can be outsourced, that there
Right.
isn't necessarily a need for a human to turn the wheel on every little thing, that we can automate it. And there will be jobs that are outsourced, and there will be things that we don't necessarily need a human to do. But there is, and in that, I think and you're probably of the same opinion. I'm not scared about that. I think there are challenges about that. I mean, for your world, for my world, definitely for professional services. I mean, for any sort of business short of like, manual labor to some
Right.
extent. There can, and I think that's a lot of opportunities for young professionals. And I know you work with a lot of, young professionals as well. I'm hopeful that, they kind of take the reign and take the lead on a lot of this type of work, because in my industry, in your industry, these older professionals, like, like I was interviewing somebody yesterday, and they work for a really old firm, and this person was telling me, she's like, we're dying in this remote world because we had nothing online. Everything was
Yeah.
physical, physical folders, paper and all of that, and they're suffering. And I think, like, you know, inevitable they're going to be like eliminated or retire at some point. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, are you feeling that like your clients are trying to? Because I think our generation, younger generations, we're. I don't like the term work-life balance, but there's a lot of people who are really trying to, build a life that they want, and not just, go into the office and, work for 10 hours a day. But that's a lot of stuff. So I don't know. What do you
Yeah. No.
clients?
Um, Andy Grove, one of the former, I think, CEOs of, I believe, Hewlett Packard. I'm pulling it up on my phone because I loved the quote so much. I have it as part of my email signature, and I want to get it correct. He says, "Bad companies are destroyed by crisis. Good companies survive them. Great companies are improved by them."
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the way of the world, and that's good. I'm a believer in that. Strengthens the collective, right? We get sharper, we get more innovative. I think excessive comfort breeds complacency, right? If we're not having to struggle a bit, I think we start to descend and it worked. It worked last year. Well, it may not work this year. So I can say that from my firm and the support that we get as independent advisors within there, they have been very ahead of the curve. Like, they have been extremely proactive with technology being at the forefront for the client. I mean, we have phenomenal uh, uh, client websites, apps, the DocuSign. I know the balancing regulation with technological improvement is tough,
Yeah.
right? It's in your world as mine. But I think they've done an excellent job, which has supported us in supporting our clients, which is we can solve your problems quickly, right? We can do it not only effectively, but efficiently. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
if we don't innovate, we're not going to make it, and some won't.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I want to, because again, you work with young do you see, like, I almost feel like, I could be wrong, but like my sense is like investing all of that. Young people don't really think about that, right? Do you get that sense, or no? Like,
It's a good question. I'll give you some examples. If I asked you, Justin, what are your thoughts on retirement? What would you say?
I don't see myself retiring.
Great. Yeah. So, and that's extremely common. So let's unpack that. Why? Um, by the way, I'm a son of a psychiatrist, so I like to get into the psychology. So it makes me a tad crazy too, but we're all different. Right? You and I have that entrepreneurial spirit. For us, the word retirement is like, ugh, it's anathema to like our existence. It's like, no, I want to keep doing and building and growing. The word retirement, if you actually take it back, it was invented not very, very long ago. Some say, last I heard, it was one of the German chancellors, Otto von Bismarck, who was trying to get people to stop working and then go on a government subsidy, etc. But also life expectancy was maybe 70. It was like retire at 64. Oh, not a big deal, right? But you have nowadays increasingly more common. I was just using my grandmother as an example. She turned 102 this month.
Wow.
So from, and I'll land the plane, but it's such a deep topic. From the economic standpoint, she paid into Social Security less than she's received. That's crazy. But it's becoming an increasingly large problem, which is people are living quite long. We figured out as a medical community how to keep people living long, not necessarily healthy, but alive, right? So back to the concept of retiring is, well, what are you going to do at 67 if you've got another maybe 30 years left? It's a lot of years of doing nothing, quote unquote. So the word is taking on a new meaning. What I like to see with my young clients is just that at some point, work becomes optional for them. Doesn't mean you stop the train and then just start collecting from your investments or what have you, but if you go to work that day, it's because it's something you want to do. So bringing it back to the investing, the traditional methods of investing, you could say, are a bit outdated in many ways, right? Even the word investing, what does it mean? Does it mean buying properties, paying down the debts? Well, I would say that that's a form of accumulating wealth that allows you to at some point stop working, right? Does it mean the stock market? Does it mean Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin not too long ago, everyone thought it was the greatest thing. So when I'm talking to our generation, it's a bit of defining the word. Number one, what does it mean? Why defer enjoyment today to put it away for later? That's really what you're asking investing to do. And I think psychologically, we may be seeing a tad less, but I think the studies actually show the difference is we're actually even more proactive. The younger generation the last studies I saw, they're more accepting of help when it comes with a plan, right? They don't just take things for granted. They don't say, oh, well, you got to put money in the 401k. Okay, why? They're challenging a bit more, which is, I think, the right way to do it. And I think maybe people intuitively realize, like you, which is, I don't know what I'm investing for. If you don't know where you're going, you don't do it, or you do it in a suboptimal manner. Now, I talk mostly to entrepreneurs and business owners, so their method of investing is investing back in themselves, their business, their practice, because they have an exit strategy or they should, or I help them develop an exit strategy that says, actually, the best place to put your money is right back into your business, because the stock market is not something we can control reasonably. Does that answer, or have more questions?
It's just, I know, people who might be watching, and I, again, we kind of have the same type of clientele to some extent. I just think that, and it's probably, longer conversation, but it might be the term investing. And I think when young people hear it, or even when, same in my world, when young people hear, let's set up a trust, their mind automatically goes to, oh, I don't have millions and millions.
I'm not rich enough.
I'm not rich enough. Or in your world, investment, same, I don't have enough money, or I need
exactly
now. And that might be true, right? Like you you're not going to invest $100 if you need $100 now. So, but I almost feel like the conversation has to shift a little bit. And whether it's planning, like what you said, what are you planning for? If most of us, the thought of retiring at, 65 is probably not going to be feasible, one, and two, most of us don't want to. So then why are we saving that money? Yeah.
That's the crux of it. And that's in dialogue. I think something that I would say that I do well with my clients is tease that out and say, well, what's right for you?
Right.
Some clients that I have, I would say they're traditionally more in the professional space. They don't own their business. They have no desire to own the business. It could range from a doctor that just wants to be a doctor, right? And they tend to be like a hospitalist or something. And they're just, no, I love practicing medicine.
Right.
I don't want to have my own practice. And for that person, investing might take a more traditional. You might say, well, you can invest, you can buy properties, right? It's very common. You and I know down here in South Florida, everyone kind of thinks real estate is the solution to all their woes. It might be when done well, but it also comes with a different set of realities. Like you got to be a landlord.
Yeah. Yeah.
And during a pandemic, they might not pay. Your tenants might not pay. So I think investing gets thrown by the wayside because most clients and most people, and even me included, don't take the time on the front to say, where are we trying to go? This stuff is hard, and it's very hard to self-govern. At the end of a long day, right? At the end of a long day, you're telling me that after dealing with probably 100 emails, 1,000 to-dos, some fire you had to put out, right? You're going to then at the end of the day, assess your portfolio, figure out whether it should be tweaked given the new economic change, right, or whether you should do it on a tax deferred or a tax deductible bit.
Yeah.
It's hard to ask that of yourself.
It's interesting. And definitely, I think, times that, it's a different conversation, which I know you have with your clients. But I know we got to kind of wrap up here in a second. I want to, maybe just end with this. Is there, in your space as a financial, advisor, a planner, professional, what advice would you maybe give to other people in your space? What's working with regards to this kind of new norm of remote? What do you think is, working and you see yourself doing going forward?
From the practitioner of what do you mean by that? Just to
working remote, trying to keep maintaining a practice, not just sitting back and saying, okay, I'm going to wait till everything opens up again.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good place to end. I think I know I can speak for myself. When this thing first started, it was reactive. Granted, I had a few systems in place. I knew how to manage Zoom or GoToMeeting or what have you. So it wasn't so abrupt, but it was still reactive because we didn't know how long we were going to be in this state. Is it 2 months, 3 months, et cetera? And then the problems that we just talked about, like, well, we can be on 1 million Zoom calls, we can do this, we can do that, start becoming now draining, right? That reality becomes draining. So now I'm actually going through a bit of a metamorphosis to say, let's embrace this change because I don't think it's going anywhere, right? I think the remote is actually just what we're seeing has sped up trends that were happening anyway, right? So I'd like to view things from an optimistic lens, a very practical, realistic, but also optimistic, which means we're in this. I enjoy it, which means if I want to travel to Idaho and work from there for a month, I'm going to do it. So I recommend that for people. As a good example, like RV sales are rising. People are modifying their behavior. They're saying, well, I can get in an RV, find some Wi-Fi and work. I think we have to do that. I do also think that we have to be mindful of this digital overload from both the work standpoint, from the news. I mean, we can constantly be getting a buzz or a text or something that says, oh my God, the world is ending. So we need to create space to retreat into silence more. Like you said, build it into your calendar. And I'm going to make a suggestion that I'm currently doing right now, which is in our process tracking or in our CRM, everything's been moved so digital, but it doesn't help me manage my thoughts in my brain. So I'm switching to a bit more of an analog system for my sanity. So I've actually just adopted, I'm starting to read the book on the bullet journal method, which is, so I have this pen. I like the physicality of saying I need to write down some things. If I have to doodle, I can doodle. So I think allowing space for your thoughts, for your feelings, to collect your thoughts in something analog, there's a lot of power to writing things down. Like as the research shows, writing down your vision is a lot more powerful than saying, I have a vision. I think that is a necessary complement to how virtual we've gotten. Can't just move completely virtual because I think we're going to go nuts.
Yeah, good. I think that's great advice, man. How can, if people want to get in touch with you, work with you, find you, all that good stuff, how do they do that?
I think one of the best ways to do it is, I'm on LinkedIn. My name is the best way to find me. My website is jorgecasariego.nm.com. And they can pick up the phone and call me. We're all attached to our phones. They can text. I mean, I'm easy to reach.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
You too. Man. Enjoy your 4th of July and get out there.
Thank you, man. Bye.